Welcome into the Hustle Show podcast here on Wager Talk and Wager Talk YouTube's channel. I'm Mark Zinno, joined here this evening by the incomparable Kelly Stewart, along with Chris Thurston and Adam Trigger. We'll get you guys ready for week 0, I should say, in college football and week 1 in the NFL. But of course, as always, the Hustle Show brought to you by our good friends at Viva Tequila Seltzer. Viva Tequila Seltzer, refreshable and drinkable hard seltzer, 88 calories, 0 sugar, 4.5 alcohol volume. Viva is the perfect drink for your post-game celebrations. As it was created with the active lifestyle in mind, we flavored our tequila because flavor is the spice of life, and we like our drinks with a kick. Just like we like our lives, our flavors pair perfectly with our artisanal Blanco tequila. For our subtle and refreshing drinks, our belief is to live long, live well, and live it up. Hashtag Viva Up. You guys can get 20% off Viva at vivatequilaseltzer.com. Just use the code HUSTLE20 at checkout again. vivatequilaseltzer.com, HUSTLE20 for 20% off. Let's go around the horn here, get it started tonight. Kelly Stewart, Kelly in Vegas, how are you? I saw that you had some headshots going on. You were all made up. There were cameras, there were lights, there was a dog involved. I'm having trouble keeping up here.
My dog is the best. She eventually just got sick of my shit and decided just to lay down on the white screen. And then we got to the end, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to pick you up and make you take some photos with me because you're 10 and a half years old, and I cry about you dying every single day. So that being said, I am well, going to Las Vegas tomorrow for 10 days. I feel really guilty leaving my dog and don't know if I'm really going to make it all 10 days. I actually have a couple return flights booked just in case. But I'm excited to see all of you guys and yell at Trig in person because I just went on to retweet the show, and there's not even a link there because he only has one job, and apparently he's too busy doing home renovations.
Yep, same. I just tried to do the same thing.
I forgot the link. I've actually been on shows all day, back to back, all the Wager Talk shows. So yeah, that's my bad though. You know what? Why don't you ask CT Bets about how good he's doing, and I'll tweet out a show link real quick so we have something to fire out on Twitter. Let's do that.
Well, okay, we'll skip Adam Trigger because, well, him forgetting the link is
I'm doing terrible because the Giants are down 5-0. So you don't need to know. You just know I'm doing bad. Move on to CT.
You didn't hear it. You had not plugged in your.
You need to be part of the
earpiece in yet when he said what he wanted to happen to the Giants today. So, okay. We're just putting out all the good vibes in the universe right now.
Trig,
it's the fifth inning, but I've already counted it as a loss. So
I would too. BP and I were on the Rays this morning. So anyway, but let's go to Chris Thurston. Chris Thurston, CT Bets at CTBet16 on Twitter. How are we doing, brother?
I'm doing great. It's football season for me, and I don't have to watch or listen or hear about any Major League Baseball anymore. So that's music to my ears. That stupid sport is in the rear view mirror for me. I'm going to Vegas tomorrow. I land in Vegas at 8:30 a.m. Vegas time. Joe Ranieri is already going to be there. He's got drinks set up for us. We're going to be at Circus Swim by 9:30 a.m. tomorrow. Life is good. I'm going to see all you assholes in a little bit.
You're going to go to the pool 3 days in a row? It's going to be like 117 degrees.
Perfect. Get a little suntan going before football season.
The Irish skin that CT Bets has should go real well in the Las Vegas sun. You guys going to turn to a raspberry by the time the end of the trip is over.
Life is good.
I mean, there's now a link. There's a link.
Just same old shit. Can never get a word on this stupid show. I don't even know why I come in. He doesn't shut up. It's just mind blowing. Go, Treg, talk. You're
I was just trying to get a link.
Yeah.
I was just letting you know that the link has been posted at 5:06. So
it has.
A few minutes late.
Kelly, I got to tell you, it's interesting. Just some background here. You're giggling like a schoolgirl. When I first started hanging out with Trig and CT, I always assumed that they were the closest friends in the world, and they are. But sometimes when Trig and CT fight, It's like watching your parents fight. I get very nervous. I don't know whose side to be on.
You
I
get
always want to
nervous?
defend.
I'm like,
Yeah,
I'm crying. I am crying right now. I'm even blurry on the screen because I'm like bawling, laughing. This is why I told CT, we got too nice to Trig in season 2. Season 3, like, I'm coming back fast and furious. I'm hitting the hammer. I'm done with his BS. I'm here to pick winners. I'm here to have a good time, slam some Vivas. Trig, next, I'm gonna talk to like a producer. Like, I want to get like one of those like, I don't know, buttons. There's got to be a button, like like when you're live on air and you just like mute somebody. I want that button so I can do that to Trig.
So we want to do our own Around the Hustle version instead of Around the Horn, Around the Hustle, where Kelly gets to mute everybody and take points away. We'll start with our first point tonight. Trig, I'm not going to ask how you are. We know it's not going well. So we'll start with our first discussion tonight in college football. Look, it's not an incredibly exciting slate. I mean, obviously, you have the Navy Notre Dame game going on in Dublin, Ireland. I think I have some interest in some of the smaller games. San Diego State kind of interests me a little bit. UMass, Mexico State, rematch from last year's game. Unless anybody feels like paying attention to USC, San Jose, USC should blow them out. But Kelly, we'll start week 0 college football. Do you have any particular leans, likes, loves that you're looking at?
Yeah, Mark, like you said, from a entertainment perspective, right? It's kind of just meh, right? Like Tennessee is going to blow out Virginia, boring. Most teams are playing like subpar teams. I think the biggest favorite on the board is like Alabama, Middle Tennessee State, or like USC, Nevada. I'd have to like look at the updated lines. I have not played anything for week 0, if you will. It's kind of like one of those things where I just really like to dip my toe into the water. And I'm going to be really honest with you. This is where it gets difficult, right? These lines come out, depending on the sports book, sometimes in June, some even earlier, and they get the shit beat out of them all summer long. So unless I'm betting super early, I'm not getting the best of the number. So I might as well wait and see where the chips fall. The first couple of weeks of college football, I always try to keep it light. I don't want to quantify it and say, I'm only going to have 3 or 4 plays. I may have 8 come down to it. But as of right now, I have played 0. My parlay will be back. So with these big spreads, it makes it really difficult because let's just be honest. UConn's probably not, even though they're going to be at home, going to upset NC State, right? Even though they're catching 15 at home. 15 might be appealing, but I'm looking for those outright money dog teams. So we're going to keep an eye on some stuff. I'm really excited for LSU, FSU, just from like a fan perspective. I think it's going to be a great game. But outside of that, I've got way more NFL that I've already played.
All right. We'll get to NFL here in a minute. Trig, anything on week 0 in college football for you?
So I have not bet anything week 0 yet, but and I don't know if I will because, as Kelly said, there's a few games. I mean, and again, none of the week 0 stuff has popped in terms of making like an actual bet for me. However, the one I'm kind of keeping an eye on, if it continues to get bet the way it is Florida International. So, Mark, the people are betting Louisiana Tech as if this game is over already. It opened at like 9, and I think it's up to 11. And my sort of theory here is this game would get no action if it wasn't week 0. It's one of those games that like is only getting the handle because it's week 0 and everyone's got to have their first bet of the season. And there isn't very many good options, to be perfectly honest. So people just seem to be latching on to Louisiana Tech. And now I'm starting to see 11s pop, and I'm starting to ask myself, I mean, that seems like a lot of points. I don't know if I trust Florida International enough to take the 11, but there is some sort of redeeming qualities as to why I would maybe want to back them if the number gets so outrageous. Let's say it moves to 11.5. Let's say even it hits 12. Defensively, Florida International is not bad, and those teams tend to like play as double-digit dogs, especially like first week of the season. Their defense should improve this year, as opposed to last year, where that was kind of the only thing they did well. Now, last year, offensively, one of the worst offensive teams in the country. They were absolutely horrific. I wish Drew Martin Betts was on the show because he's like, that's like in his backyard. I know we talked Florida International a bunch last year. Embarrassment, like literally dead last, one of the worst offenses in the country. So the way I kind of look at it is, well, it can't get worse. it might not get better, but like it's going to be hard for it to get worse. Like they've already got to be priced as if they're one of the worst offensive teams in the country. And then I look at on the other side of the ball with Louisiana Tech. I mean, this was a 3-9 team last year. Now they're going to have Hank Bachmeier at quarterback, former Boise State quarterback. A lot of people think he'll come in and just, be pretty good right off the bat. I see their win total, I think, is like expected to be double, right? I think it's like over 6 when they were a 3-9 team. So a lot of people like Louisiana Tech to improve. I don't really disagree with that, but man, laying 11 out of the gate seems like a lot. Like this team had a horrible offensive line last year, big time issues on both sides of the ball, really sloppy defense. Like, they definitely improved, but did they improve to come out week 1 and just hammer a team that actually beat them last year? Florida International found a way to knock Louisiana Tech off. I don't know. I mean, if it continues to get bet that way, I got to think there's got to be some point where it makes sense to come in with FIU. Maybe it's 12. I don't know. Like 11 is kind of enticing to me. I just think that it's getting to the point where the Louisiana Tech money is just people just piling on. And I feel like now we're starting to get, 2-3 points of value where it might make sense to take the points here.
Tend to agree. Again, I don't think the numbers move in the other direction. It's only going to move in one direction, or I wouldn't see some buyback, at least not early on. But anyway, I have one week 0 game in mind here. I'll get to it in a minute. CT bets, though. Anything on your week 0 card or even into week 1?
Yeah, I bet a few things. I bet one game in week 0, Mark, and that's UMass at New Mexico State, right? And I know we saw that line opens up. New Mexico State around -10. Some sharp money came in there and hit UMass. It's banged it down all the way to -7 here. And now I've gotten involved. I like Jerry Kill. I'm a big fan of his as a coach. New Mexico State, he made their second bowl game since 2000 last year. He's been a winner in his career, right? He's turned around a lot of programs, Southern Illinois, Northern Illinois, Minnesota. Now he's taken New Mexico State. I think that they won 6 games last year, and they win their bowl game. They get a lot back here on the offensive line. The defense was horrendous before he got there. And last year, he improved them a lot. They finished 30th in total defense. It's been very impressive there. And then on the other hand, UMass, Coach Don Brown, he goes 1-11 last year in his first year. Now he's in his second year. They haven't had anything close to a winning season in the last 11 years. There's only been 3 wins in the last 4 seasons. It's been pathetic there in UMass. I think that New Mexico State takes care of business, no problem, week 0 here. When it got to 7, that was the number I jumped on, Zeno. So I'm on the New Mexico State here in week 0. And I bet a few things in week 1, but I'll just hit one of them really quickly, because there is a offshore book out there that a lot of people on this show and most of us on the hosts here have access to. And that I love how we could talk about any sports book now, Cal, by the way. That's one of the pluses. We don't have to focus on one particular book, which is great. So we can freely talk here. So Zeno, there's an offshore skin called Metallic, and the number's off there on the Northern Illinois at Boston College game. And that's week 1. Okay. Circa has BC -11. On Metallic, you get BC -8.5. I've banged that the last few days here. It hasn't even moved. I'm high on BC this year. I bet them over 5.5 wins. I like them week 1 to cover the 8.5 spread. 9, it's 10 a lot of places. 11 at Circa. 8.5 is a great number here. Sophomore trigger man Emmett Moorhead, he's going to take over the reins for Phil Jerkovich, and I've heard a lot of great things about him. Everyone I talk to on campus, I'm close to BC here, Zeno. They say they're really excited to see him in his second year. They lose the stud Zay Flowers. They got a nice transfer from UCF, Ryan O'Keefe. He's very similar style play to Zay, kind of runs silky smooth routes. They also have Dino Tomlin. That's the son of Mike Tomlin. He should emerge as like a nice target for Moorhead as well. And the offensive line, was a disaster last year. That was due to all the injuries. They got a few transfer to fill the voids, and then all ACC guard Christian Mahogany, he's back. That's absolutely gigantic. This line that you could get, absolutely must jump on. -8.5 metallic skin. If you guys have it, go play it. It's -10, -11 in most places. So I'll give those two out for now, Zeno, on week 0 and week 1.
I have 9.5 on my offshore book, so I just looked. So I'm still getting a little bit of value with it. I might jump on it with you. I know you guys are going to hate this for my week 0 play, just because it's a big number, but I kind of can't resist. Are we forgetting how much Vanderbilt improved last year and how much better they're going to be this year? I'm going to lay the 17.5, and I know the half is ugly, but I'm going to lay the 17.5 with Vanderbilt in week 0 against Hawaii. Hawaii's terrible. They have no defense. Clark Lee has proven over and over again that he knows how to rebuild a program. And this is going to be a Vanderbilt offense that's going to be able to score points and score them at will in this game. I don't see how Hawaii keeps up offensively. Remember, they got to make the flight over to the mainland here. I know they're playing their first 2 games on the mainland before they go back to Hawaii. But this is a prime spot here with Vanderbilt to be able to jump out to a 1-0 record, and they're going to pounce all over this year. It wouldn't shock me at all to see Vanderbilt put up 45 or 50 in this game offensively, which is something that we would never say about Vanderbilt 2 years ago. They could barely score 20. So I think you're getting an opportune spot here. They want to send a message. Clark Lee wants to jump out early and really take advantage of a much weaker opponent. I think he does it in week 1. So I'll back the Vanderbilt Commodores in week 1.
I don't hate that. Really quick, Zeno, I got to chime in. Are they even going to be able to play at that stadium? There's a game in like a little over a week, and the place is decimated.
Yeah, I know.
I just think it's a very odd thing, and I understand they're like, oh, our stadium's not going to be ready fully till 2025, but I don't know. I think that kind of stuff does come into play for certain teams. I know Hawaii is absolutely and utterly garbage. I don't blame you for wanting to lay it with Vanderbilt, but
I saw that picture popped up on Twitter. It looked like a war zone.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, half the whole side of one end zone is like rolled up, like sod.
Oh, this is kind of wild.
Yeah, it's going to be a long haul. Prayers up to Maui and everything else. But regardless, any other final thoughts on college football before we transition to pro? I just want to give you guys one last crack at it. All right,
I've got a couple season win totals if anybody wants anything. Sorry, that was delayed because I keep yelling at everybody to mute themselves because I don't know which person's mic was screwing up the first 19 minutes of the show, but it was driving me absolutely and utterly bonkers. So I asked everybody to mute themselves when not talking. That being said, I have 4 season win totals. I already gave you guys Texas Tech a couple of weeks ago, as you know. I also did play TCU under. Now, this one's kind of tough. I'm expecting to see some regression. Under 7.5 wins. It is plus money. Same book CT was just referring to. I cannot tell you what it is, though. That being said, I think that TCU saw 6 guys go to the league. They're not exactly one of those rebuild programs. And what I think Sonny Dykes did last year was nothing short of incredible. That being said, I think this regression is going to hit this team really, really hard this year. And it really starting to show. And you can kind of see it when in regards to looking at like the Big 12 market. So I did play that. I also played, there was one more that I wanted to give you guys. Utah under 8.5 wins. It is juiced minus 125. Lots of teams in the Pac-12 are going to struggle this year for a lot of reasons, whether it's distractions, whether there's animosity. There's still Oregon fans on Twitter talking about going to the Big 10. Like, bro, what are you doing? Like, you guys are now a Big 12 member. So I think I would not be surprised to see some issues. I do have Florida plus 7 circled, was 8. So I did miss the 8, as we talked about to start the show. Importance of getting the best of the number. But I do have Florida circled. Now, I don't expect this Florida team, especially with Graham Mertz, to be that great. But I would not be surprised for them to put up a dogfight in Salt Lake City. So kind of eyeing that 7. We'll keep an eye on it over the next 9 days or so and go from there.
I'll agree with you on Utah. I mean, look, I studied that 8.5 forever. Look, the last time non-COVID year that they didn't win 9 games, you have to go back to, I think, 2013 or 2012. It's been like 10 or 11 years that they have won at least 9 games every single year, but the scheduling gods did them no favors this year. None. They have a gauntlet of a schedule, and there's just too many question marks for me to say, okay, they're only going to lose 3 games this year. They could lose 4 or 5. I mean, it's very, very tough. Now, in reality, we've always seen Kyle Whittingham come through, right? Like, it's just weird. You could say, I think you could look back a couple of years ago and look at a couple of their schedules and go, they probably should have lost a couple of games, and somehow Utah pulls it out. But I'm with you. I lean on the under there. All right, let's transition here to the NFL Week 1. I know Trig is still grinding preseason, but, I'll give you an opportunity at the end to do the preseason stuff, Trig. CT, let's get us started here. Week 1 in the NFL. What are you eyeing up? Have you locked anything in yet? Nope, you're still muted. Now you got to unmute the button.
See that?
See?
I was a good boy and I listened. Yeah, I have bet a couple of things, Zeno. The first game that I played, and it was just when Burrow got injured, I just hopped on there and I bet the Browns. I got plus 2.5. That was just based off that, although I did kind of like the Browns to win that game anyways. It looks like that Burrow's still going to play. But, the line's down to -1 now, so I have 2.5 in pocket. But the game that I most recently played, and I played this a couple days ago, and the number is still there, and that's the Green Bay Packers plus 2.5 Week 1 at the Chicago Bears. Probably going to be one of my bigger bets that week, Zeno. I think, there's a lot of people that are so high on Fields having this breakout year. I'm just not buying it. I mean, for the Bears' sake, he better have a breakout year because his numbers have been absolutely terrible. The completion rate has been horrible. His starting record is terrible. I think he's about 5-19 or 5-20 in his career with only 24 TDs, 21 picks. I just don't think that the Bears went and got the pieces they need to kind of compete this year. I just don't think that DJ Moore and Big Bob Tonyan are going to be the answers here. On the other hand, Jordan Love, he's a number 1 pick back in 2020, and now he's finally going to get his chance as the trigger man. I'm not saying that by any means he's going to become, Aaron Rodgers overnight, but let's not forget, Rodgers sat behind, Favre for 3-4 years for getting the ball, and saw how well that turned out. So, Love really impressed me week 1 in preseason. It looks like he has the wits and the talent to kind of compete here. I think they're absolutely in a rebuilding year, but let's not forget they still have 2 great running backs, maybe the best running back duo in the NFL that could run the ball down your throats, and that's with Aaron Jones and AJ Dillon. Yeah, they lost a lot of talent on the wideout side of the ball too, but let's not forget, Christian Watson, he was great in his rookie season. He's going to have to replace Lazard. And on offense, they still have Bacateri, anchoring the offensive line. So he's going to be able to get some protection for Love. I think that number is a little out of control there. I think I make the Bears maybe -1, maybe even maybe a pick here. So I grabbed that 2.5. I like Green Bay. They maybe even win that game week 1. I'm higher on the Packers more than most people. Zeno, I talked to a lot of people. They're betting the Packers to have the worst record in the NFL this year. I don't agree with that. So Packers plus 2.5 for me week 1.
That's crazy. And look, the Bears, 2 questions about them. Their run defense is terrible, and they couldn't get to the quarterback last year at all. So if those things haven't improved, you can score on will at the Bears. I believe it or not, I like the over in that game because I still think the Bears' offense is going to be able to score, but they can't stop anybody.
I played the under in that game, but that's just a blind underplay because of divisional week 1 unders. There was no handicap. That was just something that I've done every single year. I'm with CT though. I like the Packers in this spot. I wussed out though. I didn't take the 2.5. I teased them.
Who's saying the Packers are the worst? I can think of 5 teams worse than the
that.
Packers, like off the top of my head.
Yeah,
That's wild. They're definitely not the worst team, or even the bottom 5, in my opinion.
Kelly, real quick, the two trends from week 1 that have held up for the last decade plus: home dogs within the division are covering about 2/3 of the time at 66%, and the divisional unders that take place early on in the year. Just refresh everybody on the trends themselves, and for all you guys out there, are there any ones you're looking at, whether it's a home dog in the division in week 1 or a divisional under, that you like more than another?
I feel bad. I did a video with Ralph earlier, and I forgot to get the data points from him. But you are right, Mark. It's low, or it's like high 60s for the divisional dogs. And the divisional unders, we saw them start to regress. Hopefully that doesn't continue this year. But just really quickly, rapid fire, because there, again, is no handicap behind these. Panthers, Falcons under 42.5. Jaguars, Colts under 43.5. Packers, Bears under 44.5. Raiders, Broncos under 44.5. Rams, Seahawks under 47.5. And Cowboys, Giants under 47. Bills, Jets under 47. So I did tease the Packers with the Dolphins, got them both plus 8.5. I actually think both the Packers and the Dolphins can win their respective games. But again, I'm kind of a wuss. As I said, I like to kind of like ease into football season. I would say my sharpest time is like mid-September to mid-October, just because that's when you can really start to see the variance and the overreaction in the market before the market gets really, really sharp. I'm not one of those guys that's an originator, so I'm not going to sit here and try to pretend that I am.
Well, again, I mean, there are definitely some home dogs, divisional home dogs, that I have my eye on in week 1. And as crazy as it sounds, I'm not high on the Jaguars. I absolutely like the Colts in week one. So that's one team I got my eye on. Trig, go ahead. Week 1 NFL thoughts.
Well, my thoughts is the sharpest time to bet NFL is right now, the 3 weeks of the preseason. I think there's a lot of people that would probably agree with me there. I typically don't bet, like I'll bet college football. I've got 2 college football plays locked in already for week 1. I'll bet those a month out. I really won't do it with the NFL, and it's mostly because I'm like grinding out the 3 weeks of the preseason first. Want to see these teams play, want to make sure that no one gets hurt, because, now that you've got 3 preseason weeks instead of 4, they will play starters for multiple series, and it's just, I prefer to bet week 1 stuff in the NFL. I know some of it gets hit, but like whatever. I'll usually bet it like after the 3rd week of the preseason, or maybe like going into next week. So I haven't played anything in week 1 yet. Preseason week 1 went great, 4-0 so far in the preseason. I put a 5%er up for, that's up. So I'm not going to give that one out on the show, but I did see the Lions got played earlier today. Still think it's probably playable. They play the Jaguars this week. And I think really right there, I guess the only rationale I would so I agree with the move. And I think my rationale would be, well, for me personally, kind of agree with you. I'm not high on the Jaguars at all. I think the Lions are potentially really good. I mean, I know we've got to see the Lions win games first to believe it, but their talent-wise, they could be a top 5 team in the NFL. Now, are they going to blow games they should win? I don't.
Go back to that opening game, though. Like, that's the thing. That opening game last year, the Rams got blown out at home. The year before, the Buccaneers barely beat the Cowboys. Like, that week 1, they're celebrating. They're doing everything. I just want a better number than 6.5 with the Lions in week 1.
Yeah, it's a tricky game because, I don't know, you're right. Like, I would love to take the dog there. Feels like it's 6.5 because they're going to get a lot of dog money in that game. I don't like Kansas City at all. So that certainly profiles as a game. I don't know if I want to be on the trendiest dog of this century, but at the same time, I definitely don't want to be on the Chiefs, who I think are just not even close to as good as a lot of people are making them out to be. So it's a tricky game right there. But Lions in general are very good. They have nice depth on both sides of the ball, in my opinion. Great offensive line. Goff is nasty. And so as far as this weekend's preseason game is concerned, I just like their roster, top to bottom, better. And the Jaguars, I mean, I watched that game against the Cowboys. They had their chances to blow it. Nathan Rourke made a couple of tremendous plays to get that one home. And so I think the number was I think it got bet because the number was probably perceived to be a little bit inflated, almost a look ahead line in the preseason, if you will, right? Like the Lions come out and they don't play as well as many anticipated they would against the Giants. The Jaguars come out and beat the Cowboys in somewhat of a high profile spot. It was like on, Saturday afternoon. And so now I think and people really, for whatever reason, want to love this Jaguars team. The people they love Trevor Lawrence and they really want to love the Jaguars. And I think that's starting to permeate into the preseason here. And so I think some sharp bettors went against that, took 4. I saw it went down to 3.5, might even be down as far as 2.5. So that is not a client play for me, but it's definitely one I agree with. I think I would still play it at 3. I don't know if I would play it lower than that, but I'd probably play it at 3. So that's this weekend, Saturday. I believe it's 1 p.m. Eastern. Can't wait till 24 hours from now when my times are all messed up. Nothing worse than being on West Coast time, which is where I'll be starting tomorrow. But I do think the Lions are probably the right side in that game against the Jaguars this weekend.
Well, because you had to interject after Zeno said he was going to get to the preseason at the end of the show, I had a question. So now we have to go back and talk about the fucking Lions again because you didn't follow the show protocol. So anyway, we're going to talk about this Lions team. My video for the Lions isn't going to be out for 2 more weeks because it's 32 teams in 32 days. So you're going to have to wait for it. But here's my question, Trig. So we know Jameson Williams is suspended. They have 3 Thursday night games. Do I think this Lions team is going to be improved? Do I love Dan Campbell? Yeah, absolutely. I think we all loved him after seeing him on Hard Knocks. But there is an actual shift in the NFL, college football, whatever you will, in sports. When you are used to being that underdog and you have that I'm a hunter mentality. I want to go out and be David and beat Goliath. Well, now all of a sudden you're favored to win the NFC North, which you haven't done since 1993. And you're projected to win 10 games to go over your season win total. Now this team's being hunted. I'm not saying that Minnesota is going to be that great. I'm a big Kirk Cousins fan. Obviously, Dalvin Cook is now gone.
Same.
He's with the Jets, things like that. I still think that obviously Minnesota overachieved last year. That doesn't mean they cannot win 9 games. I think they're going to be in a dogfight in a couple of them. I'm not that high on the Bears either. What about the Packers? I got to see some more from Jordan Love. That being said, I kind of think that maybe the Lions are going to be the darlings from a betting perspective this year because they were covering so well the last 2 years. 68% against the spread. I mean, last year I was like, damn, is Dan Campbell my new Mike Zimmer?
Cal,
Yeah.
So they're probably the Lions are probably going to be the way I'm looking at it. I'm not betting their season win total. Won't get involved there. And I kind of agree with you. It's going to be one of those teams where I'm just not going to bet against them, right? I'm just saying, you know what? I really like this team. They have a lot of talent, so I'm most likely not going to bet against them, even though that's going to be maybe the sharp thing to do in some of these scenarios with some of the other teams in that division. I'm just probably going to say, you know what? Let me go bet one of the other million games on the board and just leave that one alone because I kind of agree. In this case, I agree with the masses here. Everyone likes the Lions. Trig also likes the Lions, but it's almost impossible to find value when that's the case. So I'll probably just go bet something else. That's kind of my take with the Lions.
I was trying to look and see because obviously them playing Kansas City, everybody loves Kansas City, but Kansas City started to see some regression over the last 2 years. I asked John Murray earlier for who the sharp plays were, who they weren't, and they're basically none of the sides that we played. He said Minnesota is square for week 1, as is the Eagles, Bills, and Jaguars. So I can tell you that much. And I actually think it might be sharp squares both sides on the Jaguars, which is kind of weird.
Yeah, well, the Jaguars are the most overvalued team in the NFL, if you ask me, this year. They're being priced like they're the Bills, the Chiefs, and the Bengals, and they're not. But yes, Kirk Cousins, as much as I am a huge fan of his, and I am not here for any Kirk Cousins slander, never will be. That said, he should never be favored by a touchdown over anybody. That's just, it's 3.5 every single time. And do you trust him to get to 4? And he usually never does because they blow it late and win by a field goal. So that's the story for Kirk Cousins when you bet on or against him. But as far as the quarterback is concerned, look, and I'll say this much too, Kelly, about the Vikings. They have pretty much the exact same number at this point to win the division as they did last year. You and I both played the Vikings to win the division last year. Am I to believe that the Lions are a similar spot this year as Green Bay was last year with Aaron Rodgers? I just think it's mispriced. And a lot of that is the public love and public perception of the Lions. All right, Kelly, let's turn your attention for week one. I know you already started to touch on it a little more, but anything else that you missed, a deeper dive you want to get into on week one in the NFL?
That is all I've played thus far. Like I said, this is just like kind of one of those cruise control type things. I do not like to draft my fantasy football teams early, and I don't like to make my bets that early because we are still seeing some chaos, if you will. Sorry, our producer's adjusting my camera because I've been sitting like an asshole. But in all factuality, that is just what works for me, right? The last thing I want to do is put in a bet on a team and then, we just saw Zeke go to the Patriots, and I text CT to kind of mush him against our Patriots bet. Like, hey, congrats on Zeke. And he's like, I think we overpaid for him. That being said, it wasn't fun to get that news. I would have rather, Mac Jones got traded news or something. I don't know. So anything other than what benefits the team that I already bet against.
Well, here's what I would do with that signing right now. And I think that week one is the only week you'll see it. Give me Zeke to score anytime touchdown in week one. You'll get plus money on it, and you'll never see it again because he's going to poach every single goal line carry from Ramondre Stevenson. That's what's going to happen.
CT, what's your take on it? You kind of went off a little bit about it.
I think it was a complete waste of money. I would have rather seen them pay and give Hopkins a little more money and be actually in contention to get him. But I agree with Zena. I mean, they did need another back. Not sure that's the route I would have went. But yeah, he's going to get some carries inside the 20 and definitely on the goal line. And want to know what? I agree with you, Zeno. He should be the one getting the ball. I mean, remember the game last year, Christmas Eve, they came all the way back for versus Joe Cool, and Stevenson fumbles the ball going in. The game was over. So yeah, Stevenson will be the primary back, but look for Zeke to get those carries inside the red zone. And yeah, his over under touchdowns is 4.5. I think that goes over. I mean, they play the Cowboys too. If he gets down there in the red zone versus the Cowboys, he's probably going to be getting the ball. So I could see him getting 5 touchdowns. But to answer the question, I probably wouldn't have paid him that much money, and it didn't get me all giddy and excited. I use the word giddy because that's the word Trig used when he was giving out the White Sox at that great number a couple months ago. Did not get me White Sox giddy. That's for sure. Kelly, you said you wanted the old CT back. I'm back, baby. You said you wanted this season 3. Here I am. You got me, baby. You got me. I'm back.
I'm just laughing. I mean, if we're just going to beat up on Trig for 45 minutes on soon to be Thursdays.
I won't do it, buddy. I'm still here for you. I love you. As far as week one is concerned, look, I've resigned to the fact that I probably won't see a 7.5 with Detroit. But that would be an auto fire just out of principle. But if I get a 7 that pops back up, I'm probably going to lay it.
Zeno, you're never going to see it. And I'm going to tell you why. Because the whole world is already going to tease the Chiefs to basically a half, right? Like they're going to be that. So they're the bookmakers, if they do anything, if there's an injury or some overreaction to somebody being out, whatever that looks like for week one, I think they just go straight to 9. I think there's going to be some very small bets taken there, but the bookmakers they're just tired of getting their asses kicked on like little things like that.
Just go back and again, I'm not. This isn't like a trend per se, but if you look at the openers, the Super Bowl winner has not done well against the number because again, there's celebrations, there's flag raising, banner raising, dancing. Everyone, you know what the other team is doing? They get ready for a football game, and 52 other guys are sitting there patting each other on the backside, celebrating from last year. So there's just an early mindset, I think, that changes it. So I like that. Can I give you an under the radar game that I like? And again, you might want to throw up when I say this, but the more I look at it, I kind of like the Rams getting the points. I am not a believer in Geno Smith, okay? I have a much bigger sample size of Geno Smith sucking at quarterback than I do with the 10 games he played last year where he was in the MVP conversation. That's the guy that's going to show up because that's the guy that showed up for the last 6-7 weeks in the NFL last year. What we saw from him was a farce, and I don't think you see it again. Now, if they have a healthy Kenneth Walker, that could change things. But like Kelly said earlier, if divisional unders are coming in, I think that benefits the Rams a ton. As long as they get a healthy Cooper Kupp, and we have to wait on this, a healthy Cooper Kupp and a healthy Stafford. I know, you make the face. I get it. There's a lot of ifs here. But that's why I kind of got to wait this out. I don't think that number is going to go. I don't think you're going to see anybody rush to bet the Rams here. I think most of the public will back Seattle at under a touchdown. So I can wait a little bit longer on this number. I just think the Rams with Sean McVay and Matt Stafford healthy are nowhere near as bad as people want them to be. I've heard it's a three-man team. It's Aaron Donald, Matt Stafford, and Cooper Kupp. You could argue that might be enough, at least in this game. It's a divisional game. Again, it's not something that I absolutely love, but I've been watching it, and I've been looking at the NFC West, and I continue to look at the teams because somebody's got to be competitive other than the Niners. And I don't believe in the Seahawks. And their run defense
Do you really think
terrible.
it's even going to be the Niners? I know we already talked about the NFC West, but like there was two divisions that I filmed all of my NFL videos except for 8 teams. And that's because I was trying to keep them division. And then I went ahead and did Seattle today and a couple others. I have not filled my 49ers bet yet because is it going to be Brock Purdy? I mean, I heard it's not going to be Trey Lance, but the guy cannot stop throwing interceptions at practice. Listen, that does not always equate to what happens in the regular season, but there's a lot of question marks for me with San Francisco. I know they have Steve Wilkes as their new defensive coordinator, which is great, and they have a very easy schedule, right? That makes sense. I think they're a very good team at home, but I don't know. I'm not buying heavily on the Niners by any means.
I mean, I tend to agree with you, but I don't think the Rams are as bad as, possibly being the worst team in the league kind of bad, especially not with a healthy Stafford and McVay. So I got a couple of weeks for it to unfold, but it's just a game that I've been eyeing up and studying a little bit more and going, is Seattle really 6 points better than anybody? Like, ask yourself, are they that much better than anybody else, especially with a team that can't stop the run, period? Are they that much better than anybody? The short answer, I think, is no. So there is that. All right, before we get out of here, final thoughts, anything else? We want to go to official best bets here. I know we gave out a bunch of stuff. You just want to reiterate for the populist team bets?
Yeah, I gave out 2 bets. I'll stick with those, but I'll leave you with one thing here, Zeno. I bet 2 Heisman bets. Okay, last year I had Hendon Hooker. That was a great number, and we saw him get hurt. Kind of cost him the Heisman there at the end of the season. Georgia isn't going anywhere this year. I want everybody to remember that. They're going to be just as talented as they have been the past 2 years, maybe more. Okay. Now I've bet Carson Beck at 40-1 to win the Heisman. That same book that I was referring to, Metallic, still has Carson Beck up at 30-1. Circa has Carson Beck at 20-1. 30-1 is still a great number. Now we know the Heisman Trophy is a quarterback dominant trophy, right? Usually we see quarterbacks win that trophy. So now you're going to tell me that you're going to give me the trigger man for the back-to-back reigning champs, the team with another easy schedule, which they don't even need. They're going to go 12-0, win the SEC again, and be back in the college football playoff. And you're going to give me Carson Beck, who I hear great things about, to fill the shoes of Stetson Bennett at 30-1 still live after I've already hit it at 41. I think 31 is a great bet. So I'll leave you with that. If you have a metallic skin, I think Carson Beck is worth a bet to win the Heisman.
At CTBets 16 on Twitter. Adam Trigger at Top Flight SI on the Twitter, X, whatever the hell we're calling it now. Best bets for you, Trig. I say Twitter, everybody knows it, but it keeps coming up X, so whatever. Thanks, Elon. Anyway, Trig, what do you got?
Well, final thought. CT brought up my White Sox bet. Yes, they're about 30 games under 500. That's not hitting, but I also gave out UConn 30-1 on the show. As Kelly says, you only need one of those a year. You give 130-1 out a year, you're good. So sorry about the White Sox. The Cardinals, on the other hand, not dead yet. 8.5 games out, easy schedule coming up. They might play their way back into the wild card. Talked about that on the First Pitch show earlier today. Best bet, this is a 4% play. I gave the long version of this out. I can see Kelly backstage looking at me already, so I'm going to go with the short version here. Miami, Ohio, plus 17.5. It's down to 17, 4%er. I just think it's going to be a defensive game. Miami, Ohio returns 9 starters on the defensive side of the ball. I think their defense can play. And Miami, Florida, it's a tough one to break down when they're both called Miami. But Miami, Florida's got to play Texas A&M in week 2. I could just see the Hurricanes kind of coming in, running the ball, controlling the clock, time of possession, and not wanting to show Texas A&M everything they've got. But listen, like Brett Gabbert's back, instantly makes Miami, Ohio's offense better. He missed almost the whole season last year, and Miami, Ohio had one of the worst offenses in college football. So him back just alone makes the offense better. Listen, Miami Hurricanes, that defense, the talent they have, could be the best, like one of the top 5 units in college football if it all pans out. But that's a big thing. Like the whole if it all pans out thing at Miami is, we'll see, right? Like Cristobal's first year last year there was kind of a disaster, totally disorganized. New offensive coordinator, new defensive coordinator. I just don't have a ton of confidence in Miami, the Hurricanes, coming out week 1 and winning by more than 17 points against a team that can defend. So I'll call it like a scrappy game. 17.5 seems like too much. Even if you have to take 17, I think it's fine. 4% play Miami, Ohio. The Red Hawks, Mark Zinno, are going to get it done and get the money week 1 against the Hurricanes.
Can't imagine what the long version sounded like. All right, Adam Trigger at Top Flight SI.
Sorry, I thought you were going to be mean to Trig. Someone's going to be nice to the poor guy.
Sorry, Trig. I'll make it up to you in Vegas. I'll buy you a drink. At Kelly in Vegas.
We'll buy you a Viva that we have for free from John Murray's house. Okay, so I don't have a best bet.
I'm really curious. Do we have Viva, by the way? Okay, thank you.
Yeah, Chris shipped a whole bunch of Viva to John Murray's house. I'm somehow going to go pick it up in the vehicle that I don't have.
Hey, my old man can do it. Well,
hopefully if Chris shipped them, then they might get there this year, because remember what happened when you shipped them. We never saw them.
FedEx seized our Viva last year. Shame on them. All right. John Murray texts me. Sharps on Steelers +3, Broncos -3.5, Jaguars -3.5, Bengals pick'em, Public, Eagles, Jaguars, Vikings, Bills. So that is my contribution for today's show amongst all of those lovely divisional unders. I agree with Zeno. There are some interesting home dogs for week 1, but this is where things get a little dicey, and you've got to decide. Do I want to bet a futures bet, or do I want to bet this team week to week? And I'd love to take the Jets +2 week 1 as a home dog, and I'm probably going to tease them up to 8 because I'm a wuss, and then I can still have that as a loss. But that being said, I have the Jets under 9.5 wins. I don't like that conundrum that you get put in. Sometimes that's why I don't really like a lot of futures bets. But just kind of keep that in mind when you're making these wagers over the next couple weeks. You don't want to proverbially shoot yourself in the foot week 1 or early on. I think there was a game that happened with me with CT last year. I ended up on the Pats, and I'm like, please just lose by 3 because I needed them to lose for our regular season win total, but I liked them plus the points that week. So it's not a fun place to be in and try to somehow middle, if you will.
All right. At Kelly in Vegas, Kelly Stewart. Real quick, I will throw out a quick best bet. And CT, I apologize. It is baseball. I've been on a little bit of a heater here as of late over at Sports Memo. 5-1 the last 3 days, 11-3-2 over the last 8. So we are going to ride hot here. And I only put one play up for today, cashed a 5% yesterday. And I'll give it to everybody right now for free if you haven't already purchased it. But we took Toronto first 5 money line tonight against the Philadelphia Phillies. Look, this was probably pricier than I wanted it to be, but given the starter with Kevin Gausman on the mound, who has been absolutely fantastic, a really hard luck starter this year for the most part as far as wins is concerned, but he's been absolutely electric. He's got the second best K rate per 9 in all of baseball. He's got the best K rate in the American League per 9 in baseball this year, going up against a Phillies team that struck out the second most of any team in baseball on the road since the All-Star break. I know Toronto hasn't been scoring that much at home. That's why I played the first 5 money line, and it's willing to pay the juice just to secure a tie in case Toronto doesn't hit. But we like the Blue Jays here. First 5 money line tonight for my client play for and best bet for the show. All right, as always, Hustle Show is brought to you by our good friends at Viva Tequila Seltzer. Viva, a refreshing and drinkable hard seltzer, 88 calories, 0 carbs, 0 sugar, 4.5% alcohol volume. Viva, the perfect drink for your post-game celebrations. Created with the active lifestyle in mind, we flavored our tequila seltzer because flavors the spice of life. And we like our drinks with a little kick, just like we like our lives. Our flavors pair perfectly with our artisanal Blanco tequila for our subtle and refreshing drinks. Our belief is to live long, live well, and live it up. Hashtag Viva Up. Again, you can purchase right on their website, vivatequilaseltzer.com. Use the promo code HUSTLE20 for 20% off. Again, vivatequilaseltzer.com. We are all going to Vegas. We'll try to come back next week in some semblance of normal. I am looking forward to seeing all of you there in person and doing a little cheers to you. And it's great. It's going to be a lot of fun, guys. I hope you're all ready, and I hope you brought your liver.
Help.
Help. That's the only thing that we can say on the way out the door. Thanks for watching and listening to the Hustle Show here on the Wager Talk YouTube channel. Have a great night. We'll talk to you next week.